Hi guys, welcome to the Raid and Trade channel. It's Ben. I just got second place at the Dutch Open, playing Brandon Despia. I went 7-1. It was an 8-round event with I think 256 players. Let's just jump right into the list. I played 40 cards. I tried to cut down all of the bricks and streamline it as much as possible. So I played 3 Alubar for starters, of course. 2 Tragedy and 1 Ad Libitum. It's 2 Tragedy because we're playing Desires, spoilers. I think Desires is very good for consistency, and game 1 it always baits Ash. And Tragedy is not the worst card to draw because, especially in 40, you're always going to have Cartesia access. It's like not that hard to find, and then it's kind of a consistency piece. Then, of course, 3 Albas. I want 2 Cartesia. 3 is definitely possible, but I couldn't find the space, and honestly you don't really want to normal summon it, but you're gonna see it's often live without normal summoning it. Then 1 Quem. I think it's one of the, well, semi-bricks or like not starter cards that I decided to play, just because it can add more layers of interruptions to your end board, and it's not terrible to draw. Also, it gives your Titanic Red and the Grand Guignol more purpose. And then I played, as the last 3 monsters, 3 Shrouded Dragon. We're not playing any of the main deck one-offs like Mercuria, Lubellion, Saronir, Kit, whatever. I wanted to keep it as consistent as possible, and those cards are not starters. And I don't think you need the ceiling or the flexibility of those cards to win the games that you're supposed to win. So we're playing 3 Shrouded Dragon because it makes Cartesia live, it makes Brennett in Red live, which is our main interruption card, our main going second tool. So it's very flexible. It's basically an upstart, kind of plays into draw, of course, but if you can prioritize stuff like Alubar first. So if you get drawled, you can still discard the Shrouded Dragon for Lubellion, for example, and then get its effect that way. That's it for the monsters. Then we played 3 Fusion, of course, and 3 Opening starter cards, self-explanatory. Then I was on 3 Branded in Red. I mean, 1 is mandatory, I think everybody agrees. I'm playing Desires, so 2 is mandatory, because it's like basically our only interruption. And I decided to play 3 because it's very good in this deck, because in 40 you're always going to see combinations that let you make it live going second, even while or before committing your first normal summon, or like your Alubar or whatever, by Shrouded Dragon or Opening or whatever. So I think it's a very good going second tool, especially against stuff like SP or targeting negates. Then 3 Deployment, of course, 3 Super Poly. I think this card is very strong right now. I don't think it's mandatory in decks that cannot use their own monsters, but in this deck specifically, of course, every time you can somehow play Super Poly, I would play it. Also, boards are rather fair now, so they're beatable by just playing through them. That's why I'm not playing hand drops in the main. Then 3 Desires, I already talked about it. Desires in 40, some people might be concerned. I think it's alright because I'm not playing important one-offs. If Quem is gone, if Adlib is gone, of course I'm losing lines of play. But that very rarely is the breaking point between winning or losing the game. Oftentimes if you resolve combo, missing that one option is not really a problem. You still win the game. Sometimes you have to grind a bit more. Sometimes it gets awkward if you only have 1 Albas in the deck after Desires. But I think it's absolutely great that it basically baits Ash game 1, so it makes sure Branded Fusion resolves, and it's just a +1 overall and barely hurts the deck. It's very unlikely to banish in a way that it hurts your plays. 3 Thrust. I think self-explanatory. It's just broken in this deck because it searches every power card you play going second, And since people don't really FTK except Centurion, and that matchup is fine because Branded Fusion and draw phase, standby phase stuff exists, I think playing Breakers or like, I mean, it's not even a Breaker, right? It acts as Engine, and Engine is just so strong into the best decks like Fire King or Risk Ace. 1 Talons is a thrust target, barely came up for me today. I think it's a bit weird and overall unbranded. But it's definitely not terrible to have. It's a nice option. I think I OTK'd 1 player today by using Talon's Take. Called by mandatory, I think, especially in formats where you can use it going second. In the mirror, against Fire King, going second, it's live, so definitely needed. Also, a lot of the end boards you actually beat, if they don't have Ash, like Fire King, you don't really care about anything their end board ends on. 1 Branded Retribution, I was on and off of this. Friend told me to play it, shout out to Johannes Bauer. But I think it's nice to have a send off of Shrouded Dragon and also a second interruption that you can potentially set. That came up like twice for me today, so definitely not bad that I played it. It's of course a card that doesn't play, which goes against my philosophy of this deck, but it's at least a card that pluses off of the many discards that I have. And then 1 Fusion Duplication as a thrust target. In 40 cards, the situation where you get Ash on Branded Fusion and have thrust is does come up a lot, so I think it's definitely reasonable to main deck this. And yeah, I think it's not even terrible to draw, so why not? I sided out a lot going second though. An extra deck, fairly standard, just very fast. 2 Mirror Jade, 2 Albion, 1 Lubellion. I missed the second one a few times. It got weird with recycling, but I'm not sure if you can find the room, honestly. 1 Grungignol, 1 Rindbrom, 1 Titaniclet, 1 Sprint. This isn't necessarily standard, but I think it's kind of good because you can fuse away the fire monsters that often don't really meet any other requirements like hydrants or whatever. So I think it's cool to have a target. Also, Cash becomes a lot more popular, and this is the easiest target against Cash. Sometimes, of course, against these decks you can find spots to make Titaniclet, or against Fire King you can find a spot to make Rindbrom, but the Rindbrom problem is often that you want to use Rindbrom in the grave to summon the Albas, so you won't have it to make it. And then Sanctifier. Lots of people cut this, but I think it's very, very good, especially now that Evenly's back in the game and Cash is the deck again. Also, I'm siding the Gimmick Puppet, so yeah, that's that. It's a very strong card, severely underrated in my opinion. 1 Masquerade, just to have a fusion that I can make with the Despias, and it pressures a bit, I guess. 1 Dragostapelia, 1 Guardian Chimera. I did not miss the second one, although what did come up was that it was kind of sad because I'm not playing Patchwork and Polarization or whatever, so you could opponents can always target the Guardian Chimera. And a few times I would have wished they couldn't, so whatever. 1 Magnum the Reliever. Guess this isn't entirely standard if you're not playing Chimera, but it's easy to make with Branded in Red and Cartesia. And the good thing about this is it's a super easy Typhoon out. Typhoon is a bit annoying in this deck, but I think if you can make Magnum somehow or Albus fuse it away, then it's good to deal with. 1 Mud Dragon is a super poly target, and target for Albus. I think it's just needed. I don't think Garura is needed necessarily. Far fewer decks play into Garura than they play into Mud Dragon. So I decided to cut Garura because I just didn't have the space. And Mud Dragon is the more powerful of the two anyways, because you barely ever get the draw effect of Garura because you kind of link it off in this deck. Side deck. 1 Feather Duster, 2 Lightning Stormers, back row mass removal. Good against Race, good against Rogue, good against Cash. 2 Cosmic. Zio convinced me to play this. I was not a big fan of back row removal or Cosmic in specific before, because I think the decks that you have Cosmic against, you can also tackle in other ways. But he convinced me that it covers a lot of matchups, and it's also good going first. So yeah, it was definitely not bad. I would probably play it again. 3 Ash, strongest card in the mirror. Very strong against Lab. I think even though you don't play other hand traps, I think Ash on its own in the right matchups can be strong enough. So I would probably definitely side it, and it's also very flexible. So if you meet any rogue deck, you can side it in going first or second. So I sided this in against Marinsas, even going first. Yeah. 3 Dark Ruler no more. This card is coming back on the radar a bit. I think it's not mandatory in the side right now, but it's definitely nice because it deals with all the interaction pieces that you don't just easily play through. So like Appaloosa, for example, you can just Dark Ruler, Caesar, or whatever. It just gets rid of unfair boards. And against Vanadium, it's still the same thing, right? You have to get rid of the counter trap, and if you do, you can Dark Ruler them. Because this deck can't play Typhoon, so other decks have, I guess, that advantage. And then the fourth Dark Ruler is 1 Droplet. It was really just 15th spot, and I wanted another card that does basically the same as Dark Ruler. Yep, so it was Droplet. 1 Herald of the Abyss, shoutouts to Kang. My thrust target for Pearly can theoretically come up in other matchups, but really barely it does. Just figured if I'm playing thrust, might as well if I have the space. Then 1 Magnamut, the only Bestia, because it can search a few engine pieces. You can search Albus or Shrouded Dragon in this deck, so I figured it's probably worth. And then the Gimmick Puppet, I think I puppeted like 2 people maybe today. I don't think my game plan is to go for the lock post side, but it's nice to have the option. So yeah, if you have a lot of resources and you can do a lot of plays, Puppet is really cool because if your opponent doesn't interact with you a lot on your turn and you get the option to puppet him, I usually go for it because that means that he has a lot of engine in hand in the best case, or he has a lot of engine and board breakers, and with that you're just safe from exactly that scenario. So thoughts. I played against a lot of different decks. I played against like Fire King, I played against Warrock even round 1, I played against Marinsas, I played against Rescue Ace, and I don't think this deck has a per se really bad matchup. I dodged Labyrinth all day today, which is really cool because Labyrinth can be very annoying to deal with if they just open well, go first. So I was happy to dodge that matchup. But yeah, I think overall it's very well positioned. It's the deck beats the top decks, and it's on its own. It has a high ceiling, and its engine is very good going second, which is great in a format where you're not reliant on hand traps to win going second. So shoutouts to my team, Raid and Trade, of course. Shoutouts to Johannes Bauer for building this deck with me. Shoutouts to Zio for building a side deck with me at 3 AM. Shoutouts to Demi, DB's Despia Warrior, and shoutouts to 100%. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to our socials, and see you next time on the Raid and Trade channel.